My name is Sandra Tobler. I'm co-founder and CEO of Future. So in a world of ever-increasing data generation and digitalization, data theft is actually on top of the radar of every single company. You cannot solve those threats with static software products as you have done it in the past. Hackers need to have a barrier that is as high as possible to get access to sensitive user data. And a new generation of cybersecurity companies is addressing this new challenge that is constantly evolving. And I will quickly introduce you to the world of our startup called Future, and we're addressing data theft with elements of machine learning, and are also framing this new way of building software of the future. So let me start a bit with what Peter has done, putting into context what actually machine learning means in the area of cybersecurity. So machine learning can be seen as a way of improving a task based on experience. So basically, we teach a system, we create a model that is the benchmark for what is considered as normal. And there are various applications of machine learning already in use today that we are confronted every day with, but we may be not aware of. To give you some ideas, spam filters or malware detection are fairly well evolved already. So broader speaking, machine learning is detecting anomalies. So what we have to do is we need to define what is a normal behavior and what is deviating from a normal behavior. What could be malicious activities that are, for instance, someone trying to get access to our sensitive web application, or malware, or even a malicious employee who is frustrated with what he does. This can all be potential harmful behavior we want to identify. So there are two phases. The first phase is you train the system based on this model that you have identified with what you consider normal behavior. So this is based on past data sets. You need to train this algorithm to have something as a benchmark, as a baseline. The second phase then would be that you would have the future data coming in, where you can detect what is deviating from this so-called model you have created. So that's new data coming in, which are also including threats. So ultimately, the goal of this exercise is to detect attacks when they're happening in real time. And the basis for all of that this is going to be successful, is that you have training data. So training data is something you need to collect in large amounts and have samples that are in good quality, that are comparable, unless your algorithm will not going to work. What brings us to some limitations. Oops. So one limitation is if you have maybe not trained the system enough with training data, what could have happened is that the system doesn't even detect the attacks coming in. And this is so-called false negative. When you have a false positive, the system is basically flagging normal behavior as negative behavior or malicious behavior. So both of these two you want to avoid. I mean, the first is obvious, your system is not going to be secure. The second, false positives, although you are able to detect what is wrong, malicious behavior, what does it bring when you have also flagged a lot more normal behavior as negative? And you need to do a lot of manual effort to basically go in and sort them out. So in a nutshell, all good basis is a large set of training data. Again, to come to applied cases today, spam filters or malware detection are typically areas where you have large sample data in high quality that you can use to train the system. There are other areas that are still evolving, like to give you an idea, network traffic analysis is something where you have per default, from the pure nature, maybe a bit less databases. But let's come to our case, data theft. 95 passwords are stolen every single second. The problem is we all use the same passwords for different applications and use the similar easy passwords that are easily to guess. So this problem can be solved with so-called two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication. 80% of all the data breaches that are due to those weak login credentials can be avoided. How come we hate it and don't use it? Think of you in your social media accounts, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram has now two-factor authentication. Exactly, it is painful to use, so we hate to enable it. It's creating friction through our user experience. There are some new technologies out there in research and some in industry that try to address the problem of seamless authentication. Some have a bit of limitations, however, they become better and better over time. To give you some ideas, behavioral technologies try to identify you and make login secure based on the way you type. There you need to again have a critical amount of training data to teach the system how to do it. This can be prone to mistakes. Think of you having different keyboards with higher or lower keys. Other examples are voice recognition. Voice recognition also implies you need to train the system with voice pattern that it recognizes which one is the right and the wrong. Unfortunately, with advances of machine learning, you can also improve the quality of faking every single voice. So the problem is not always clear-cut. And what we strongly believe is that not one solution fits all needs in the market. How do we solve the problem of two-factor authentication? So basically, I show you quickly how it works, and then I explain what happens. This is a web page that has enabled two-factor authentication with our technology called Zero Touch. So all you need to do is have your mobile phone close by, in your pocket, and you have an app or a so-called software kit in an app, and when you log in, you enter username and password, and in no time, you are securely authenticated. So this whole authentication process did not take longer than 2 to 3 seconds, and you are securely authenticated without having to do something with your mobile phone. What we use is machine learning elements to prove proximity of both devices by quickly taking small snippets of ambient noise, comparing with the algorithm on the device, and the user is securely authenticated. On top, we use ultrasounds and as well sensor signals to log in into any type of devices like laptops, tablets, or even conversational interfaces like Alexa. We also have the sensor signals that can log into any single device authentication. Think of you using a mobile banking app. So what this property does offer to use zero touch without interacting with the device token when logging in is that you can have a user continuously authenticated throughout a user session without having to do something. The same property also allows you to authenticate to future-proof devices like conversational interfaces, where you don't want to fiddle with SMS codes or hardware tokens, which are typically technologies that you're used to use today. So in a nutshell, for us it's important to put the human in the center of any type of interaction to securely give him access to any type of sensitive data or to execute a sensitive operation while keeping the privacy on top. So we never know at any time in the moment who the user is. by just providing the so-called second layer of defense, two-factor authentication, we do not know who the first authentication layer, basically the user, is. So that said, thank you for your attention, and apologies for the hiccup.